Hey, everybody. Just wanted to kind of give a heads up that we're doing some question and answer from candidates that have questions about jobs that they're interviewing for, or even how to put their best foot forward before they apply for a job and when they're applying for a job. And Matthew, as a former hiring manager, is going to answer those questions. So please submit your questions to us if you have any, need a little bit of help job seeking or going into your interview, anything that's related to your career path, let us know. And we'll jump on here and answer them with Matthew.
This is the Job Stories Podcast, how people find work that matters.
Hey, everybody. This is Mason and Matthew at the Job Stories Podcast. We wanted to do a quick Q&A kind of episode today. We had some folks reach out to us via email, LinkedIn, Discord, and through our website, just asking just typical questions that they might have as they're looking for jobs, applying for jobs, that kind of thing. So we want to do a quick Q&A for candidates today. And so that's what we're going to get into. I'm going to read about 5 questions, and Matthew's going to answer them to the best of his ability. And we appreciate Starbucks for sponsoring the podcast today. It's really kind of them to do that. So thank you, Starbucks.
Sponsor the next one.
Hydro Flask on the next one. So, and Apple, actually. Apple, iPhone, and iMacs here. They're really helping us out. So, all right, Matthew. So the first question from a candidate, are cover letters still okay to use?
I would say, sure, they're okay to use. But if you have 2 hours, I would spend an hour and a half on tailoring your resume and 20 minutes acquiring new skills and maybe 10 minutes on a cover letter. I've never talked to a recruiter that uses them as a part of their evaluation process to move the candidate on to the next step. So.
Okay, so tailoring your resume, talk about that a little bit real quick.
Right, so with applicant tracking systems, candidates need to put in the words that are in the job description. So if the job description says we need this person to put thumbtacks from that shelf on that shelf, you need to say that in your resume. Say, I put thumbtacks from shelf to shelf in my last job. Because with their applicant tracking systems, it pushes your resume to the top if you use the words in your resume that are in the job description.
Gotcha. So less generic stuff and more specific stuff. Yep. I'm with you. Yeah. Okay. Question number 2. We had someone reach out that mentioned that they are currently out of work. Should they be sending their resume everywhere, or is it better to spend their time honing in on just specific jobs that maybe they really do want? Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough question because, I mean, I've been without work before, and like every day that passes, it's like it seems to compound. It seems to get worse, the feeling inside you. But I would say that depending on the line of business that you want to be in, if it's IT, if there's 2 IT shops in your city, I would then just work on applying there, making connections there. I would not take your IT skills and put them in sports management if that's not what you want to do. Mm-hmm. But if there's 100 IT companies in your city, absolutely, I would spend all my time in the next 3 weeks applying to every one of them, making connections at all those places. So my answer to that question would be, what line of work do you want to be in? What line of work does your resume speak to? Because that's how many jobs I would apply to.
Yeah, and I know it's probably different for everybody with their threshold of how ready they are and needy to make money right now, too.
Absolutely.
So it's like, yeah, that's good. Okay, I love this question. So this candidate mentioned that they had just had an interview and are curious of when's a good time to follow up with that hiring manager after the interview.
Yeah. So when I worked for a couple IT shops and was a hiring manager at one, and we had a candidate that we got the thank you card the next day from him, which means he probably sent it shortly thereafter his interview.
So like a handwritten thank you note.
So what I would recommend is take the thank you cards to the interview. Not to the interview, but like take them in your car. Do the interview, walk out from the interview, write your thank you cards, and put them in the mailbox. Because that, I don't know, it was just a handwritten note, and it was just like, thank you, appreciate talking to you. But it went a long way when we were discussing, okay, which candidates were first, which candidates were second, which candidate was third. And he got in first place because he showed us that he cared about working in our company.
That's cool. Yeah, that's really, really cool. Awesome. Okay, question number 4. Let's see here. We have a candidate that mentioned that they have a hard time and get really, really nervous before their interviews.
I do too.
Totally. So they're curious about, is there any tips on calming down prior to walking into that in-person interview?
Yeah, this is hard because, like for me, I'm very introverted sometimes. And so I don't like going to an interview and talking to 10 different people. But what I would recommend is try to kind of acclimate yourself to the cold water and talk to the secretary in the office or talk to the people on the first floor. If it's a 10-story building, there'll be a first floor guard person there. Talk to them. Just try to kind of acclimate yourself to getting in the group of talking to people, because it's hard. And a lot's weighing on interview. Like you've got $50, $60, $70+ $1,000 lying on this interview. So it's hard, but I would say, in my experience, I would just say talk to people and try to, get those feet acclimated.
It reminds me of high school basketball. They used to talk about kind of warm-ups, break a little sweat, and that kind of gets rid of the nerves. It's kind of like that thing. Sure. Get in there and start talking to people if you can. Hopefully there's people in there.
Yeah.
Start that. I like that. Okay, question number 5. This one's really great too. So this candidate was offered the salary that they were looking for, but still a little hesitant, I guess, to accept this offer, and is curious about what are some other things they should be looking for before they take a job outside of just the money's good.
Right. So, I played the opposite of my answer for a long time. I was always searching for more money, the next promotion, the bigger title, and it just never worked out for me. So what I would say based on my experiences, decide what you want. If the company is great, if you feel like the hiring manager's your style of person, I think that's great to take that job. But sometimes companies offer you a lot of money because they know that it's a rough job, whether for travel or work expectations or whatever. So I would caution that person. They might have offered a bunch of money and it's right up your alley. That might be great, but it also might be a little bit more work than you'd expect, a little more travel than you'd expected. So I would really dig into more of the job requirements than the money they offered you.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, Matthew. So this is our first installment of Candidate Question and Answers with Matthew, who's a former hiring manager, and I am really good at reading the questions. So we'll be doing more of these. So thanks for joining us. And now we're going to play our show tune. We need some show tunes. But thank you, Starbucks. Thank you, Apple, for sponsoring this podcast. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.